Thank you for coming on, Drawing
got it,
Together.
girl.
My boss, KFC, Kevin. Today we are going to be drawing...
My lowest of moments. What a gentleman I am. What a honorable internet creator I am in the moment to be like, I'm going to put out this picture.
Honorable or dumb?
Idiotic, yeah. Me and Peyton Manning, you may have heard of him. We had the same surgery at like the same time.
For your neck?
My neck, my back, and my shoulder.
Thought you were about to start singing a song for a second.
My neck, my back.
My first thing I wanted to ask you about is how you went from your boring job that you were doing to Barstool.
It's my favorite story to tell because honestly, it's like out of all like the success I've had and I've been blessed to make enough money and all that shit, but truly like the best moment was when I like knew that I could do this job and make enough money to just like have that be my life, and I got out of the cube job. So I think it's really important that I had a job first, you know? People like you who are kind of starting out here, it's like you might not have that perspective, you know? So yeah, I was an accountant out of school, which was also by mistake. It's not like whoever is like, I want to be an accountant. But I really didn't have any plans. It was just that my friends were all going the finance route, and they're all like very smart guys and all very successful in that. But so I was like, all right, I'm gonna just do that. So I got my MBA, and I got like a random like cold email. At that point, we were on like monster.com and shit like that, you know? Oh, I just drew like a pig nose.
I also drew a pig.
I just got like an inbound email that was just like Deloitte & Touche is hiring accountants. And I was like, at that point, clicking every lead. And I had no interest in it, but the starting salary was like $65,000 with an MBA. And at that point, I was like, fuck yeah. So I go get the MBA, start working at Deloitte. And the first thing that happened was I met my buddy. His name is Gil the garbage man. That was his name. And he was like, yo, when you're bored at work, like, here are some good websites. So he was like, take a look at this. And Large's blog was on there, Take a Report. And What Would Tyler Durden Do was another one. I look like I'm like a Japanese samurai for some reason. And Barstool was part of it. So I'm reading Barstool as a fan, and I really liked it. I was like, I really like the sense of humor and shit like really jived with me. So I started making my own website that was very similar content, except it was also a base of like 90s nostalgia. So it was a lot of like throwbacks and shit from my generation, along with like the sports and the pop culture. So I was doing that for fun, and actually a couple of my other buddies, my two best friends, were supposed to like do it with me. We had some loose discussions about that happening. And one of them actually works with Carabas now. He worked at Barstool for a little bit, Jay. And it was him and my buddy Wheezy, and the three of us were gonna like do it. And they just it didn't really like click with them, and they didn't really jump on board. So I started doing it for fun. And then Dave at the same time was like, I'm looking to expand out of Boston. So I'm looking for new writers, specifically New York City. And my friends were like, you should send in, you should submit some writing. And at that point I was like, no way, because I have a good job. It pays like good money. I have benefits, all that sort of shit, But everyone was like, send it in. It can't hurt. I said, okay, fine. So I send them my website. And then at least my recollection, I went to try to look back at my email, but I had deleted some Gmails. My recollection is that Dave wrote back something to the effect of, I've already seen this website. People sent it to me. I've been keeping an eye on it, and I think it's funny. And then I was like, oh shit, this is real, He said, like, keep writing and submit samples and all that. And so over the course of a summer, he would like, every now and then would like feature one of my blogs on Barstool to the commenters and readers, like, what do you guys think of this? And I remember there was one, it was a guy on The Price is Right who proposed to his girlfriend after spinning $1 on the wheel. And I was like, is this the greatest moment in like male history? Like what a boss move.
That's so 1 minute, man.
Yeah.
That's so a story that I could see happening yesterday.
Yep. And so Dave like reposted that on the site, and it was well received, if I remember correctly. And a lot of the stuff I was putting out was well received. A lot of people were like, loved their hometown guy, but also like, this guy's pretty funny. Anyway, it got narrowed down to me and K Marco. And Dave said, I can't pick between you two. How about you guys split the money and split the job, and you can keep your current job? And that was like perfect for me.
Yeah.
Because I was like, now I don't have to give up this money or this gig, but I can still do it. And then for the next 2 years, I did both jobs. I was living like a double life. It was like Bruce Wayne and Batman, or Walter White and Heisenberg. It was like no one at Deloitte knew that I was blogging, and none of the readers on the blog knew that I had.
Is that why your name was KFC?
Yeah, so that was the other thing. So this is where none of this made sense. I needed like a pseudonym to use because I didn't want people at work to know who I was. But a guy at work called me the Colonel because of KFC. And I thought, he's El Presidente, I can be the Colonel. It kind of like fits in the aesthetic, you know? So I was like, I was going to go by Colonel, which doesn't really make sense because the only person who really called me Colonel was a guy at work. So he could have been able to connect it. Dave wrote back sort of like, this is fucking stupid. No. And I was like, well, all right, El Presidente. It's not that fucking different. But we ended up just going with my initials, and that's how I became KFC. And
so it's not fucking Clancy.
No, the amount of people who believe that, though, I always thought that was silly. I was like, because one guy said to me, are you Kevin fucking Clancy? And I was like,
I thought that.
Right. And then I found out some of my friends did, some of like my family members thought it was. I was like, no, it's my fucking middle name. So for the next 2 years, I did both gigs at the same time. And I just kept getting worse and worse and worse at accounting and hating it more and more. And the thing that I was doing in accounting was directly related to what was causing the recession. So I was just like, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to give up the money, you know? At that point, Barstool wasn't like a given.
Yeah, were you getting paid?
Yeah, so I was getting paid $25,000. It was a $50,000 job, but we split the money. And it was under the table, so it was 25 grand. Like, you know, that still would be like 50 before taxes. So I was making like 65 at Deloitte plus 25 from Barstool. I was like king
you were
of the
rich,
world.
Yeah.
I had more money then than I do now.
Like relative to your life.
Yes,
Yeah,
like I had no bills, so I had like 100 whatever grand, and I was like, I can do and buy whatever I want. Now I have a lot more money, but I have so many more bills. I have kids, divorce, the whole nine. So I actually felt more financially free at the age of like 25 than I do now.
Like how many blogs were you writing? Like how much were you doing for Barstool?
Me and Keith split the job, and we were posting every 40 minutes, which would kind of usually pan out to like 12 to 15 blogs a day. And we usually pretty much split it. So I think it was probably like 6 or 7 blogs a day. And so I did both things for a while. It just kept getting worse at Deloitte, to the point that they were going to fire me. They were like, we're going to transfer you to another group. What I wanted to do was get fired, get severance, keep my benefits, and go to Barstool.
Right.
So I needed to get fired. And they were like, we're going to transfer you to a consulting group where you'll have more success. And I was like, no thanks. And they were like, what do you mean? Like, don't you want to be better? And I was like, no, I'm good. And they were like, we're going to fire you if you stay in this group. And I was like, cool. Okay. And they did not understand what that meant. Eventually, Barstool became, like, the Blackout Tour came along. It was very, like, profitable enough that I knew it was, like, I was set. And so I eventually made the jump over. But it was 2 full years of doing both jobs.
That's crazy.
All day, all night. The thing I did at Deloitte, the final thing that I would submit to review were these big manila folders that had, like, hundreds of pages. It was all old school. And by the end, I was taking those and literally hiding them, like putting them inside of drawers and cabinets, just being like, I don't know, like, get it out of here. And so the person who had to take over my job was just finding things more and more like, what the fuck? So they probably hated me.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Hated me.
Out of everyone that's come and gone at Barstool while you've been here, who do you miss the most? Like, who do you wish still worked here?
That's a great question.
Who do you miss the most personally and who do you wish still worked here?
Pat McAfee is who I wish still worked here.
Okay.
I mean, he's just, I knew it with that guy from the jump. I knew he was a wrestling fan and a big personality, like sports guy. He had it all, and obviously the reason why he's doing so well is because all that's true. I don't know what happened there. I would have backed up the Brinks truck and just gave him a blank check, whatever he wants to stick around. Personally, I mean, Keith was like my bash brother. I really, really hate the way that all went down, where Kirk, went after him after K. Marco, like, just dug his own grave, kind of. And Kirk went after him and buried him. And I don't know. I think there was room for Keith to just be like, hey, this got away from me. Like, I fucked up and I've pissed some people off, but, like, I'm sorry, and made amends, and he could have, like, worked here forever. But sometimes pride and ego get the best of you. That's one I wish, went differently. OG Philly guys, Smitty, and his partner in crime was Maurice, Big Mo. Mo was a great dude. He was a cool cat.
So you're saying bring back Smitty?
Smitty and Mo, yeah, bring back like the OG Philly guys. I like that. I mean, I don't know. By the end, Smitty hated me, so I don't think he wants any part of it.
Would you say that you, Dan, and Dave were the big 3 at the beginning?
Yeah, I mean, for the first 4 or 5 years, it was.
Yeah.
I think it was me and Dave, and then Dan came in so hot and like was just this like tour de force. I remember Dan. We wanted Dan to be the original Barstool Chicago guy, but he didn't want to make the jump, like kind of similar to I was. Like, he had a job and like didn't want to rock the boat. So we hired this other dude, Neil. And then I think Barstool Chicago being started, I think made Dan be like, I can't miss out on this opportunity. So even though he turned down the job, he kept writing and doing it part-time. And then it was clear, like, this guy's really funny, really successful. Like, we got to make it full-time. He jumped in full-time. The rundown really established it as like the big 3, because it was like, now there's like a show that all 3 of us are on.
Okay, so what do you think happened? Do you think you're still the big 3?
No.
So what?
It's very clearly a big 2. There's 2 main things. One is just strictly like a talent level and like a popularity level. And then the other is by not gambling, I just kind of like, I never realized how much that was going to like really play into things. And I also was always very like, I'm not going to fake it. So I was just kind of like, that's their thing. And then I kind of quickly realized like, oh, you're on the outside looking in on a lot of stuff because you're not like in the mix with that, you know? And Dan started with KFC Radio. It was me, Dan. I did it for a few episodes. Then I brought in John. Then we brought in Dan. And like so much of the Barstool lore kind of like started on those episodes, you know? The pizza stuff started, like the debate on KFC Radio was pizza versus burritos. And Dave was so hardcore pizza. And I think it kind of grew like the pizza guy, you know? But that was a big one. Like Dan grew his mustache because we all grew playoff beards. And Dan needed to go to a wedding. And was like, I can't have like a full beard, but he kept the mustache, so that kind of became part of him. So there's a lot of like lore and stuff that kind of, the ripple effect that came out from KFC Radio. But it was clear like he wanted to move on, and it was clear that it was just like he was going to go mega. So that's a big part of why it's like a big 2 and not a big 3 as well.
Yeah. So obviously KFC Radio has been going on for so long with John as your co-host. If there was one other person you could pick to have been your co-host and made it this long with KFC Radio, who do you think that would have been?
Oh, wow. Every time Frankie Borelli came on the show, he was always a really natural fit and really funny. I think when Frankie Borelli gets going and he's not just like talking about like golf and some of that stuff, when he starts talking crazy and like getting into personal stories and shit, he was always... It was like a quarterly appearance for a little while, just like a couple times a year, and people, it was like, mark your calendar, Frankie's on KFC Radio. That was a good one.
I don't know him, but I feel like he does everything. Golf, drums.
Yeah, he's a very talented dude, and that was a weird, like, I remember finding out, like, I just thought of him, he was just kind of like Dave's, like, bitch and cameraman, you know? And then it was like, oh no, this guy, like, is an amazing golfer, used to play baseball, can play music, is funny, like, I was like, you're way more dynamic than just, like, being a cameraman. You need to, like, get out there. I was very, very happy for him when he made the foreplay jump.
So the F in KFC could have stood for Frankie.
Could have been. Some people did think KFC was Katz, Feidelberg, Clancy.
Oh.
Yeah. So that kind of was like a little double meaning.
Oh, wow, that works perfectly.
Yeah.
Okay, what has been your biggest regret at Barstool?
There was a period of time there where I was really struggling to balance home life and work life. And every time things were going well at work, at home, it felt like I was not present or around, and relationship was struggling and stuff like that. And then every time I would like miss work and be home, Dave would sort of be like, oh, Couch Clancy, like he's not here. So it was this power struggle that like everybody goes through with work. And there was specifically one Super Bowl, I think it was in San Francisco. They flew out, there was a blizzard, so my flight got canceled, and rather than just rescheduling it and going out a couple days later and doing the whole thing, I was sort of like, oh, this is perfect, like I have an excuse, my flight got canceled. So I didn't go out to Super Bowl week, and I went to many Super Bowls after that, but it was just like, I don't know, that was an early one where we were kind of establishing that Barstool goes to the Super Bowl every year, and here are the guys doing content, and I think I just kind of missed out on that one. So putting, it's always a hard thing to balance, and I think sometimes I went a little too far, putting family or home first.
Do you feel like now you have a good balance? I mean, it seems like you go to every single thing your kids have. Like, it seems like you do everything.
Yeah. I mean, I think I worked hard enough now that like I can do my content pretty quickly, and so it doesn't take up like as much time. So sometimes it feels weird where it's like, I just made this video and it took me like 10 minutes. Sometimes videos take long, sometimes they take short, but they all kind of perform. So I either on purpose or by accident.
It's always the ones that you never. It's always the ones you never think that you do in 2 seconds where you look like shit.
And
it's
it
always
pops off
every time. Yeah.
Either by design or by like luck, I've now done this thing where it's like I can pop in and do the podcast for an hour or two, make a couple videos, and then there's enough free time to try other projects or be at home and all that. But there was a time where I was on Barstool Radio with Dave, doing KFC Radio, doing the Mets podcast. Then CCK started. Then I tried to do the Kevin Clancy show. I had Mail Time was my original podcast, the Mets podcast, Friday Night Pints, Answer the Internet. Like, there's been a lot. There were times where it was like 5 days a week, 8 hours a day of recording, creating, no nothing,
Okay, we're playing a game, and I've never played this game with anyone, but this is gonna be good. I'm gonna read a coworker's tweet.
Oh, I have to guess who it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pretty simple. Need my mom to die so I have an excuse to act like an asshole.
Could be me. I've definitely had those thoughts before. Pat? Pat already acts like an asshole.
No. Nate.
I could see that.
Weird attraction of the week. ... Amy Schumer.
Who the fuck said that? That's got to be like one of the all-time weirdos here. Heidelberg?
Gaz.
Gaz?
This may sound gay, but love how Harry Styles sings with his hands behind his back.
It's got to be Feidelberg, no? No, because he wouldn't put out the disclaimer that, like, he'd just be like, that's not gay. Dave? Yeah.
Wide awake, alone and horny. Anybody have the number for Jake from State Farm?
Wide awake and horny?
Anyone have the number for Jake from State Farm?
I'm going to say Trent.
Dante.
I was going to say, oh, fuck. I originally thought Dante, and then I was like,
so Dante.
I didn't think in 2013. I guess that was like Blackout Tour. I was thinking maybe that was when he wasn't really around at Barstool.
No, he was around and he was awake.
I was thinking to myself, who would openly talk about being horny? It would be Dante.
Yeah. Miley's new video is giving me the weirdest boner.
Feidelberg?
Dan.
Really?
Yeah. Brad Pitt and Leo would be a hot adult man if they were on each other's shoulders. That's the tweet I was going to send before I Googled, and they were both like 6 feet. Fuck them.
That's Feidelberg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's go. Finally.
That reads like a Feidelberg tweet.
Yeah.
That wasn't like just a guess. That was like, I know that's Feidelberg.
Yeah. Okay, how's your drawing? Give the people an update. Finishing touches.
I'm pretty sure I do. I'm pretty sure when people draw like racist drawings of like Japanese
Like yours is
samurai,
like a
whatever.
caricature
Yes.
from like World War II.
Yes. Like if I were to
Yeah.
put like one of the hats on, it would be
This
like.
is propaganda. Okay, ready to do a reveal?
Yup, I'm ready.
Okay, sign it. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Yours is like angular. Why is it like a geometric? Yours looks like the head is gonna pop off and start playing Geometry Dash. Mine like just doesn't look like you.
It's accurate for sure. I mean, this doesn't
I
even
kinda
look like
nailed
me.
the
This looks like a
nose, I
dead
would say.
body, you know?
Yeah, I kind of nailed the nose, I would say.